Hey guys, welcome back to another impressions video, and today I'm going to talk about this game right here, Nier for the PlayStation 3, an action RPG brought to us by SquareEnix. And a lot of people in my circles have enjoyed this game, so I decided to pull the trigger a few months ago and finally bought the game. It started to become an uncommon game, the prices started to go up, but I read recently that GameStop did a reprint of this game. So if you're mildly interested in this game, I say go get it now. Before that, one of those magical reprints batches from GameStop, gets sold out or whatever. But I do have to admit that this game is not for everybody. But if this game manages to click with you, it becomes a very enjoyable and unique experience. It's hard to find in this PS3/360 generation. So a very unique and enjoyable experience if the game clicks with you. Now the story, I'm not gonna spoil anything, but in summary, this is a love story between a dad, in this case Nier, and his little girl, her daughter, called Yona, and she basically suffers from a disease called the Black Scroll. And your objective throughout the game is to find a cure for your daughter and save her. And the game starts at a present time in a post-apocalyptic setting. And the first level of the game serves as a tutorial in which you learn all your physical and melee moves, and you also learn your magical attacks, because in this game you can use both physical and magic attacks. And after you beat that intro sequence, the game jumps into the future, some 1300 years later or something like that. And it's very odd because when you think about the future, you think about spaceships and technology, and this game is quite the opposite. It's almost like humanity made a regression, and when it comes to new things, it feels like a medieval type of setting with very simplistic way of life. No technology whatsoever, and things like that. So that alone is a very interesting starting point in the game. And of course, as you play the game and the story unfolds, you get to learn why things are the way they are, and so forth. So there are some very interesting developments, especially at the very end of the game. So it's definitely worth sticking around and beating this game. At least once, and I'm saying that because this game has, I believe, 4 multiple endings. So far I have only beaten the game once, but I'm getting ready to start my second run, because the different endings, I think, tell more details about the story of the game. So I'm looking forward to into doing that. The characters in this game are very enjoyable. Your main companion is a book called Grimoire Vice, and again, you interact with him. There's dialogue throughout the game, and another very interesting character that joins your party early in the game is called Kaine, and she's a girl with a very foul language, if you will, and very interesting different personalities that interact throughout the game, and really establish a bond between all the different members in your party that join throughout the game. And I don't want to spoil anything, but I don't want to talk about any further characters that you meet along. But nevertheless, it's very interesting, and there's always an attachment that you develop with these people throughout the game. Now, as far as the gameplay, I do have to say that this is labeled as an action RPG. But it's really way more action and basically nothing regarding RPG. Yeah, your character does level up as you battle. The basic gameplay it's a hack and slash game, very similar to God of War. And as you beat enemies, you level up. But it's a very organic type of leveling up. You basically just have to defeat enemies, and your character keeps leveling up. And I'm not really sure what that does to your character. I think the character becomes stronger, but you don't have an option to choose the category in which your character levels up. I think it just becomes stronger, but never at one point in the game I had to grind to beat a boss or anything like that. So it's almost like a non-existent element. The whole, leveling up your character, it doesn't really affect anything, in not that I could tell, at least. So very light RPG elements. You can also level up your weapons by finding different materials, and then you gather the materials and you pay a certain amount of money and you can upgrade your weapons. But again, very light, very minor RPG elements. So if you come to this game looking for an action RPG in the same vein of I don't know, maybe Xenoblade Chronicles or one of the Tales of games, don't expect anything like that. This is more of a hack and slash action game with basically no RPG elements, in my opinion at least. I didn't feel like it had anything like that. Now, as far as the graphics in the game, they're not. That's probably one of the weakest points. The graphics are nothing to write home about. The textures in this game are, average. The character models are not very good. And for being a 2010 release, I do have to say that the game doesn't really look that great. But don't let that put you away from the game. Even though the graphics are average, I think the main core of this game is the story, the interaction between the characters, and the gameplay, which it could be a little bit repetitive in terms of combat, but it's enjoyable nevertheless. The game also has some hiccups when it comes to the combat. If there are a lot of enemies in the screen, expect to see the frame rate drop considerably, but again, that didn't deter from my overall enjoyment for me personally. So just don't expect a great looking game by any means. The soundtrack, however, it's one of the best soundtracks that you're gonna get out of the 7th generation of gaming. Really, even if you're not interested in the game, I'd say just go to YouTube and look up the soundtrack for this game, because this is one of the best soundtracks that I've heard in a long time. So definitely one of the strongest points in this game is the soundtrack. Now, there are a lot of cool things that I really liked about Nier. It's an odd game. The progression in this game, it's a short game. I beat this game in 17 hours, and I could have beaten this game a lot faster if I wanted to, but I really wanted to do as many side quests as I could. And I definitely recommend doing the side quests in this game, even though some of them are your typical, deliver this item to this person in a different town, or defeat this enemy and I'll give you money, things like that. But there are certain side quests that get involved with certain NPCs in the game, and you get to learn more about their stories and their background, and just you get to know the game and the game world a little bit better, and the characters that live in this setting. And speaking of the setting, this game gave me a lot of eco vibes when it came to some of the temples or dungeons that you visit in the game. Some places are very isolated, very you get that a vibe that it's a very lonely place, and very similar to Eco in a lot of regards when it comes to exploring certain dungeons or temples, if you will. And also the game has some humor in it. There are some references to the Zelda games that if you're a Zelda fan, you will immediately recognize. Also, if you like Resident Evil game, I had so much fun playing this one dungeon or level in the game where you visit this manor in the outskirts of your city, and basically this mansion has a very similar setup to the original mansion in the first Resident Evil game. So there are a lot of nods to other games that show a humorous side in this game that I really enjoyed. But overall, Nier, it's a very unique game, a very enjoyable experience that it's hard to explain, because the game is not very open world. Even the game is open world, but the world itself is really small. There's only certain locations that you can visit throughout the game. So don't expect a huge epic adventure. It's a more streamlined, type of minuscule open world experience, but nevertheless it's enjoyable visiting all these places. And even though they don't have that level of detail that other games have, it's enjoyable in its own way. So again, this is not a very long game. It does encourage the player to come back and beat the game once again to get different endings, and which is what I'm gonna do. I got the first ending, and I'm getting ready to start my second run so I can learn more about the characters and the story of the game. I think that's a very good point that really adds replay value to the game. So Nier, a very enjoyable game, very unique experience, and again, I'd say give this game a shot, considering it's pretty cheap, and it's something very unique that you're not gonna play or see anywhere else. So great characters, great story, graphics are average, but a great soundtrack. So if you add all of those things together, I think this is a very enjoyable game and experience. So thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you all later.
Vice, you dumbass! Start making sense, you rotten book, or you're gonna be sorry. Maybe I'll rip your pages out one by one, or maybe I'll put you in the goddamn furnace. How can someone with such a big smart brain get hypnotized like a little bitch, huh? Oh, Shadow Lord, I love you, Shadow Lord. Come over here and give Vice a big sloppy kiss, Shadow Lord. Now pull your head out of your goddamn ass and start fucking helping us!